It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here's WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I am Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is, and I'm going to try not to slaughter his name here, Aziz Abdur-Raoof.
Very well said.
I got it. Well, welcome, Aziz. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I invited Aziz to be on the show this week because, well, one, he's an incredibly interesting person. He's a very engaging speaker. He's got this amazing personality. I just know because, this light is emitting from him all the time. You just were the keynote speaker at the Capital Gazette Athlete of the Year banquet, and you come at this with some history in the athletic world yourself. You're giving back to area kids in the community, helping them with college and career decisions, yes?
Yes,
okay.
College and career preparedness, I like to call it.
So let's talk about your own experience in the world of athletics in the county. You went to
Northeast High School.
Northeast High School, and you played what?
So I played football, basketball, and ran track. So here's a funny story. My junior year of during the spring, for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to be a white police officer.
Okay, then.
Who could pass up that opportunity? So with that being said, I actually had an opportunity to play Officer Krupke in West Side Story, and I had no idea that the recruiting process, the football coaches were going to be watching me on the track. So obviously they weren't able to watch me on the track because I was in a musical.
Right.
And
so we can get you to sing while you're here too?
That's why I played Officer Krupke, because I didn't have to sing.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
It was just very interesting. Actually, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done because it was totally outside of my comfort zone, being a thespian, and the number of hours it took because of the timing and just being with different types of people. So that's what I love about high school, and what I love about sharing those experiences with students is that when you're in high school, you have an opportunity to try so many different things.
And you should.
And you absolutely should.
So we're going to get into that talk in a minute, what's happening in today's world of athletics. You went on from high school to become a major performing artist. Just kidding. Did you do theater in college?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but let's talk about what you did at college. The University of Maryland you went to, and you did what?
So I went to University of Maryland on a football scholarship. So I was there, played under Bobby Ross, and had really great football teams, Boomer Esiason, Frank Reich, names like that. So of course I named the quarterbacks because, the quarterbacks are the glory
right.
guys. But at any point, our Coach Ross was a tremendous leader and did a great job in leading us to ACC championships. We had an unfortunate circumstance while I was at Maryland in '86. Len Bias, a name that a lot of people know, he passed away due to making some poor decisions. Actually, I call it a poor choice.
Terribly tragic story. You played what position when you were at Northeast?
I played quarterback at Northeast.
And then went to Maryland and played?
Receiver.
And then you went to a team that's not the Redskins. And not the Ravens. You ended up in Kansas City with the Chiefs.
I did. I was drafted by them. I was pretty fortunate to be drafted by them because I sustained an Achilles injury in my 4th year at Maryland. And so I went from what I call being really fast, running under 4.3 to, I called running 4.5 pedestrian slow. But I thank God for the fact that I was able to overcome that injury. It happened in September. I really didn't start running again until late March, April. And a lot of training, a lot of hard work, thanks to the trainers and thank God and all those that supported me. But I was able to come back and play my last year in Maryland and be drafted by the Chiefs.
And how long did you stay with the Chiefs?
Short career, 2 years. My first scrimmage, caught a pass on the sidelines and popped a groin muscle.
Oh my gosh, that's probably not a fun one, especially for a man.
True, very true. And I think I honestly, athletics for me was fun. I enjoyed doing it. It taught me a lot of things, but it wasn't the only thing that I could do.
Right. And
it wasn't my identity. That's probably the best way of saying it. It completely wasn't my identity. It was fun. Didn't really like the NFL because you're using your body. It's a business, completely a business. I saw some things that you just don't like to see, how people get treated. But it's a great opportunity. And if someone could take an advantage of it today, I like to call the NFL not for long, But if you can make big money in a short period of time and bank that money, like Marshawn Lynch,
right,
you have a pretty good future ahead of you.
I understand there's some, and this might be outside of your level of knowledge here, but I'll hit you up with it anyway. There's some colleges now that are making athletes take financial management courses. Do you think more should be doing this?
I just think it's a function of experience and age.
Uh-huh.
So if you're making a lot of money at the under the age of 25,
watch out.
Yeah, for anyone. I mean, you're not going to make the best decisions. Most people, in life, as you get wisdom as you age.
Right.
So I do think it's good for them to take classes like that. It makes sense. But a lot of times, depending on the individual's background, it's hard decisions that they're making. If they're coming from a deprived background where all of a sudden they're trying to help everyone and their mother, that's tough.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're coming from a background where, I'm not going to use Johnny Manziel as an example because he made some poor decisions, but he came from a wealthy background, so money really wasn't an issue, but he made poor decisions because no one ever said, no, Johnny, you can't do that.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Aziz is doing now. And then following that, we're going to talk about the world of youth athletics and how much that has changed. I'm Donna Cole. We'll be right back with the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm in the studio with Aziz Abdur-Raoof, and he is in the field of consulting and coaching our youth in the Anne Arundel County area. He's working with students at Northeast High, Arundel High.
Yeah, also Crofton, some middle schools as well. So Crofton Middle School, and I do some work with other schools depending on what principal I come in contact with or others.
So he's found his voice as a life coach. He's offering his experience in the world to kids that are now looking ahead to colleges and careers, athletics, you name it. Talking to high school age kids, is there ever the feeling that, by the way, I have one, is there ever the feeling that you're sometimes, I don't know, talking into the wind?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I have 3 myself, so I have 2 college graduates, and my youngest is at Cornell University. He also plays basketball. So he knew the guy that hit the winning shot from Villanova because he played basketball with him at Gonzaga. So going back to your original question, they're listening. They just don't let you know they're listening. And I think a lot of times what students say to me is that they want their parents to listen a little bit more and get their opinion. So that's what I try to tell teachers, administrators, and remind myself. And it's hard. It's hard because you want the best for them. And I like to describe it as the safety net is really high up. It's a little too high up in my opinion these days. I think it needs to be lowered like when I was growing up. And I think they need to fall. So when they do fall, they can get back up. Sort of like when you ride a bike for the first time, you get back up. You keep getting up until you get good at it. So when they fall and they go, oh, okay, how do I recover from this? Boom. And
the experience is there.
Exactly. So
you think we're making it tougher for our kids today by sheltering them or by giving them mattresses to land on?
Yes. Because what's happening now, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a lot of colleges at the dean's level, they've been talking about students who all of a sudden get a D or a C for the first time and they lose their mind.
Blown, yeah.
Because that hasn't happened to them. They don't understand that there's great inflation in high school. That really AP really means advanced preparation. I heard that from a dean of an engineering school.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's advanced preparation. Students really need to understand that what's happening is you're going at an accelerated pace and they're trying to prepare you ahead of time. But when you get to the college level, it's a different animal.
So in some ways, we're sheltering our kids more, protecting them from being hurt more, but at the same time, there's more pressures on them.
Exactly. Oh, no doubt. A lot more pressure. I'm glad I'm not in school now because there's just a lot more pressure. It doesn't make any sense to me because we understand at that age you're going to make mistakes because your brains aren't fully developed.
Right.
And yet we crucify them for making mistakes instead of allowing them to learn from their mistakes. The best way to learn is by making mistakes. You look at someone like Steve Jobs. We wouldn't have an iPhone if he weren't fired from Apple and he goes off to another company, Pixar, and he comes back with the technology and what he learned from there if not being fired and getting back up.
Right.
You look at Seattle. They should have arguably won the Super Bowl, but a guy made a great play and they didn't win. So that's what happens. That's what you should learn from sports. That's why I love sports, is because you learn those lessons. Now it's applying those lessons to life.
Sports from the time, when did you graduate? Am I allowed to ask you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. When did you graduate from high school?
83.
Oh, same as me. Okay. Oh, I didn't say that, did I? I didn't mean to say that out loud. The whole sports thing has changed tremendously.
It has.
You played how many sports?
I played 3 sports in high school. So track, football, and basketball.
Your boys, how old? You said you have 3 boys?
2 boys and 1 girl. So I go boy, girl, boy.
Okay. The oldest, how many sports?
2. Track and basketball.
Okay. The second to oldest, how many sports?
He played actually 1. He wished he had played more. I tried to encourage him to run track, and he did a couple of times in his, I think, 8th grade year, but then he kind of stopped. But I encouraged him. I'm not a big fan of AAU basketball. I think it's garbage.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second, the clubs and the leagues. And your youngest, that's now at Cornell, on basketball, right?
Yes. You know what? I made a mistake. So actually, my daughter only ran track, but she did cross country as well. So the good thing about that is that long distance running is not the same as, running.
Different muscles being used.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And your youngest, who's at Cornell now, playing basketball, how many
He
sports?
did basketball and track like in 8th grade year.
So as time has progressed, we have seen happening in society and happening in your own house, kind of, sort of, a progression from playing multiple sports, kids playing multiple sports and enjoying and trying multiple sports, to playing one exclusively.
Yes.
So let's talk about that once we get back. I'm Donna Cole. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I am Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Aziz Abdur-Raoof. He is a life coach. He's helping guide our youth to become successful adults in whatever they do. He's working with some county schools on contract. He is an athlete, was an athlete. He played for University of Maryland in football, played for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're not going to hold that against him. He has 3 kids that are all athletes. What has happened in the past 5-10 years? We've seen this progression getting worse, with going from playing multiple sports in a kid's life to doing one exclusive sport all year long, and doing it not just during school but in summer too, with clubs and leagues. And well, Aziz, talk about that. What have you...
Before I even get into that, one of the things that we lost touch of is leadership and that progression. So when I played sports and I played in a neighborhood, you had the older kids who taught the younger kids. And you had that progression up the ladder. As they got older, they took someone else under their wing. We lost that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore.
And therefore, when I got to Maryland, we still had that leadership piece. So what would happen is the offensive linemen would get together with the other offensive linemen in their meetings. As an offensive group, the receivers, we'd get together. We didn't need the coach to tell us those things. What I see a lot of nowadays is the loss of initiative. And I think that has a lot to do with the lack of leadership development at the younger ages. So to me, it's too many adults telling the young people what to do instead of allowing them, empowering them, teaching them so that they can lead and figure it out for themselves. And if you have them figuring it out for themselves, I think they would be like, Mom, Dad, I want to play another sport.
The student becomes the teacher.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So in addition to that, then we've also seen clubs created, leagues created that used to not be any. Now, and this is in every sport, and even dancing as well, with competition studios. Every weekend it's a different competition. What do you think of that whole business?
I think the question the parents have to ask themselves and the students have to ask themselves is, what am I doing? Is this for my career? Am I having fun? What am I really trying to do here? I think I think sports does a great job of teaching skills. The challenge is whether or not they're really learning it, and then whether or not they're trying to become a professional. Because I think if you line up most professional athletes, and you notice that when I talked about my own boys, I didn't say they played football.
Right.
My oldest son played football 1 year, and it was in like 7th grade. That was it. And you'll find that a lot of, especially former professional football players, don't have their boys playing football. And if they do, it's not until a later age. Probably across the board. Now,
Right.
of course, there are the reasons for that.
How many do you happen to know in the class of 1983 in Anne Arundel County? How many went on to become professional football players?
I mean, if you look at our county and just across the board, I mean, I was one of the few who received a Division I scholarship. There was Donald Turkey Brown, who went to Annapolis High School, who was 2 years ahead of me. But not a ton of football players coming out of this county that go Division I. A lot of Division II, a lot of Division III, and we do have some really, really good athletes, especially at the female level. But if you look at basketball, typically the level of competition isn't a WCAC, and any basketball coach out there knows what I'm talking about. So the level, like where my son, who played at Gonzaga, you know, so he was playing against the likes of people who went to DeMatha, Paul VI, those type of schools. Just the level of competition is just better.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that athletes from Anne Arundel County aren't as good. It's just that the level of competition is a little better. So.
But I think the point is, not many are going to become professional athletes.
Exactly.
Even with specializing in one sport all year round.
Point that I was going to make is that's why the fundamentals of the game are really important. Because if you do desire to get a scholarship at D1, D2, D3, you need to have the fundamentals, because that's what the coach is looking for. But that coach is also looking for character, because they don't want to get a phone call at 11 o'clock at night saying, you need to come get your student from this place. The idea is for them to have a
happy,
pretty stable
smiling
life.
faces.
Right, exactly. So I think what parents and what coaches are supposed to do is teach the fundamentals and then let them have fun. I think that word, I don't hear them talking about it enough. I don't know if really students are having fun.
And what about the consequences of doing a sport all year long, one sport, on the body, on the human body?
I think it takes away from development of the other muscles, and also and consequently allowing the muscles that you're using for that sport to get a rest. It's important. Rest, as they know now, is so important in developing muscles, and it's paramount. It's
a tough situation, though, and I'm sure you saw this as a parent. You have a kid whose friends are all playing the tournaments and playing in these leagues and clubs. So you have a kid saying, well, Harry's playing in this league and Monica's playing in this league. I want to play in this league too. So the parent's supposed to be the one guiding the kid in the right direction, but every other parent's letting... So stay strong, parents. Is that what you're saying?
No doubt. Stay strong, and remember you're the parent, not the friend. Because I think really students are looking for guidance. Our children are looking for guidance, and it needs to come from someone. Now, do we make mistakes? Yes. So own up to your mistakes. Take responsibility for, you know, if you say to your son or daughter, you know what, I think we're going to need to take a break this particular summer, or whatever it may be, and just say, hey, look, this is why I'm doing it. They may not like you for a while, and I think that's okay, because you as the parent should know best.
How many times have you been not liked by your kids?
A lot.
Can't even count.
A lot. And you know, it pays off when they get older.
And then they say, hey, you were right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
How can people find you? I know you're on Twitter.
Yes, I'm at ZIZ87 on Twitter, at ZIZ87_ on Instagram. And
you share great quotes and just feel good things. So do follow him on Twitter and Instagram. I need to follow you on Instagram now too. What's next for you?
Working on developing a curriculum for males of color. And that doesn't mean I don't work with females. It just means that what I see in high schools nowadays is that the young men tend to be a little further behind. Not just, developmentally and physically, they tend to be behind just because that's just the nature of how our brains are. But I just see that they don't necessarily get why they are in school. So what I just try to do is connect the dots and try to tell them why and listen to them.
Interesting. Very interesting. And maybe down the road, reestablish your theatrical interest.
That might be fun. That would be fun.
All right, Aziz, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you for having me, Donna.
This is Donna Cole. This has been the 1430 Connection. I'll see you next week.